The rain was falling hard that night, the kind that made the world feel heavy and hollow all at once. Windshield wipers swiped furiously as Ethan drove down the lonely road, his old blue pickup truck groaning against the storm. The streetlights blurred into streaks of gold through the rain-smeared glass. He could barely see 10 feet ahead. But even through the curtain of water, something caught his eye, a figure standing at the bus stop, drenched to the bone. A woman in scrubs, shivering, hugging herself tightly beneath the unrelenting downpour. For a moment, he almost drove past. He had enough on his plate already, his daughter Lily asleep in the back seat, wrapped in her little pink blanket, her soft breathing barely audible over the sound of the rain. He was a single father, a man who'd learned that kindness often came with consequences. But something in the woman's eyes as he slowed down, something in the way she looked lost, frightened, and fragile, made him stop. If you believe that even a small act of kindness can ripple through the world and change a life, then please take a moment to like this video, share it with someone you care about, and subscribe to our channel Ripple of Love, because stories like this remind us that compassion is never wasted. Ethan rolled down his window slightly, the cold rain splashing against his face. The woman's hair was plastered to her cheeks, her blue nurse's uniform clinging to her trembling body. He asked if she needed a ride, and she hesitated for a long second before nodding silently. There was a sadness in her eyes that didn't belong to someone merely caught in the rain, it was the kind that came from a storm inside. She climbed into the truck, her hands clasped tightly around her small purse. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice barely above the rain's hum. He nodded, trying not to pry, but curiosity tugged at him. She looked young, mid-20s maybe, but her eyes carried years of exhaustion. As the truck rolled forward, the silence between them grew thick. Only the rhythmic beat of rain filled the space. After a few minutes, he asked softly, "You work at the hospital?" She nodded, still staring out the window. "Yeah, just finished a double shift." Her voice trembled. The buses stopped running because of the storm. He glanced at her again. She was pale, trembling, clearly running on empty. "Rough night?" he asked, trying to sound casual. She gave a faint, sad smile. "Every night's rough when you're trying to save people who don't always want to be saved." They drove a few more miles before Lily stirred in the back seat, mumbling in her sleep. The nurse turned around, her expression softening as she saw the child. "She's beautiful," she said gently. "Your daughter?" Ethan nodded, his throat tightening slightly. "Yeah, she's my whole world." The nurse smiled faintly but said nothing more. Yet there was something about the way she looked at the sleeping girl, a mixture of warmth and sorrow, that made Ethan's chest ache. By the time they reached the outskirts of town, the rain had worsened. The roads were beginning to flood, and visibility was almost zero. "Where should I drop you off?" he asked. The woman hesitated before whispering an address, an older neighborhood he knew well, not exactly the safest place to be at this hour. As they turned into the street, Ethan noticed how quiet she'd become. Her knuckles were white around her purse strap. And then, when he slowed near the curb, she suddenly said, "Can you wait a minute? I just need to check something." Before he could respond, she got out and disappeared into the shadows between two houses. Minutes passed. 5, 10. The rain hammered harder. Ethan's gut twisted. Something felt wrong. He looked at Lily, still sleeping peacefully. Then back toward the darkness. Finally, he got out and followed her. He found her crouched behind a half-collapsed fence, sobbing softly. In her arms was a small child, no older than 4, wrapped in a thin blanket. The boy's face was pale, his lips trembling, his breath shallow. Ethan froze. "What's going on?" he asked quietly, his voice breaking through the rain. The woman looked up at him, tears mixing with raindrops. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I didn't know what else to do. He's my son." Ethan's heart clenched. "Your son? But why? Why are you out here in the rain?" She held the boy closer. "We were evicted last week. I've been working double shifts to pay for a place, but my landlord, he threw us out. I didn't want anyone to know. The hospital has strict rules about employees with personal issues. I was afraid I'd lose my job if they found out." Her voice broke, trembling with shame. "I just needed to keep him safe for one more night. I was going to find somewhere dry for us to sleep." Ethan stood there, rain soaking through his jacket, watching the woman cradle her son as if he were her last reason to keep breathing. Something deep inside him stirred, a pain he knew too well. He'd been there once, holding Lily in his arms after her mother had walked out on them. He remembered the nights when the fridge was empty, the bills piled up, and hope felt like a cruel joke. Without a word, he stepped closer and held out his hand. "Come on," he said softly. "You can't stay out here." The nurse looked at him as though she didn't believe what she'd heard. "I can't. I don't want to be a burden." "You're not," Ethan said firmly. "You're a mother trying to protect her child. That's never a burden." They drove back to his house, an old but warm home on the edge of town. He laid blankets near the heater, gave her son some soup, and found a spare shirt for the nurse. She thanked him quietly, her eyes glistening as she held the spoon to her boy's lips. Ethan noticed her hands were shaking, not just from cold but from years of carrying too much weight alone. That night, as Lily slept peacefully in her room and the nurse's son finally drifted into a fevered but calm sleep, Ethan sat at the kitchen table with her. The storm had quieted outside, but inside, another kind of storm still brewed between them, the storm of shared pain, unspoken gratitude, and fragile hope. She told him her name was Maya. She had become a nurse after her husband died in a car accident 2 years ago. She had no family, no one to help her raise her child. She'd been surviving on borrowed time and sleepless nights, holding on to faith that somehow things would get better. Ethan listened quietly, his heart aching for her. When she finished, she wiped her tears and whispered, "Why are you helping me? You don't even know me." He smiled faintly. "Maybe I don't, but I know what it feels like to be alone when the world stops caring. Someone helped me once, too. Maybe it's my turn." Days passed. Ethan helped Maya find shelter, drove her to work, and watched her son while she did double shifts. Slowly, their lives began to intertwine in ways neither expected. Lily adored Maya's son, and their laughter filled the house like sunlight after rain. For the first time in years, Ethan felt something shift inside him, something warm, something like hope. But just when things seemed to be getting better, the past came knocking. One morning, Maya didn't show up for her shift. Ethan went to the hospital to check on her, only to find her supervisor furious. "She's being investigated," the woman snapped. "We found out she forged her credentials. She doesn't even have a valid nursing license." Ethan's heart dropped. "That can't be right," he said. "She's one of the most caring people I've ever met." But when he confronted Maya later that night, her face told the truth before her words did. Tears streamed down her cheeks. "I didn't mean to lie," she whispered. "I went to nursing school but never finished. My husband's death, it broke me. I had bills to pay, a child to feed. I lied to get the job because it was the only way." She looked down, trembling. "I just wanted to help people. I never hurt anyone." Ethan didn't know what to say. He felt betrayed, but also understood. Because he, too, had made desperate choices once, choices that blurred right and wrong when survival was at stake. That night, he sat outside, staring at the rain returning softly against the window. Maya came out quietly and sat beside him. They didn't speak for a long time. Finally, Ethan whispered, "You should turn yourself in. But I'll be there for you. No matter what happens." She broke down then, sobbing into his shoulder, whispering that she was sorry. The next day, she did exactly that. She faced the consequences, lost her job, but not her dignity. Weeks later, Ethan visited her at a community clinic where she volunteered for free. She was radiant again, her spirit lighter. Her license reinstatement was in process, and her story had inspired others at the hospital. She had become a symbol of perseverance, of a woman who had fallen but refused to stay down. Ethan realized something that day: sometimes the people who appear broken are the ones who hold others together. As he watched Maya laugh with the children she cared for, he knew their lives had been changed forever, not by grand gestures, but by one simple act of kindness on a rainy night. If this story touched your heart, please take a moment to like this video, share it with someone who needs hope today, and subscribe for more stories that remind us of humanity's quiet power.